be our inspiration from Dave Channon. Are you
Hi,
ready to inspire us?
yes, I am.
Okay.
Today, I am going to inspire you by the entity of dopamine. Dopamine is something that you can bring up in your body to make you feel better. Laughter is great medicine. And a lot of people have said that. And when you have snow on April 16th, you need to laugh. I was laughing down here as I was in the DMV at in Hickory, and my wife's daughter sent a picture of it. It was snowing outside. So in that vein of laughter, I'm going to try and share something you might laugh at. This man's walking along the road with his duck. Unfortunately, the duck gets sideswiped by a car. Poor duck. The man rushes to the vet with his duck and he says, Doc, can you do something for my duck? He says, let me examine him. He looks at him. He says, I'm sorry. Your duck is gone. He says, I want another opinion. The vet goes in the back. He brings out his Labrador retriever. The lab sniffs the duck and says, I'm sorry. Your duck is gone. He says, I want one more opinion. He says, okay. He goes in the back and gets his cat. And the cat sniffs all up and down the duck. And the cat says, sorry, he's gone. So the man finally says, okay, he's gone. All right, Doc, how much do I owe you? He says, $1,500. He said, $1,500 for my dead duck? He says, yeah. If you just relied on my opinion, it would have been $50. But you had a lab report and a CAT scan. Now it's 1,500. See, okay, you're laughing. I hope others are too.
Very good. Very good. Thank you,
Well,
Dave. And I'll shake your hand from afar here. So. All right.
yay!
And now we will have the pledge to the flag. I do not have a flag background. You guys are just going to have to like pretend someone will come up with a flag, right? So I pledge allegiance
Just
to the
to the
flag
flag,
of the United
the United
States of
States of
America
America,
and
and
to the
to the
republic
republic
for
for
which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
indivisible, with
liberty and
liberty and
justice for
justice
all.
for all.
Thank you, Len. I knew you'd come through. You have backgrounds for everything we need.
Hey,
So,
Beth, we have a
yes.
guest this morning. Our program quality director, Jillian Sheldon, is on Zoom with us this morning. Was welcome our program quality director. Morning, Jillian.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad you joined us. And I will now, are there any announcements to begin the meeting
I have one for next week, Beth, if I could have a moment.
Sure.
I am the WAG Master next week. I will not be WAG Master next week because that is not how we learn. We learn by spreading the jobs out and everybody taking a choice. So if you are interested in being the Word Master or the Master or the Grammarian, let me know because it will be 3 positions. And if you don't make some choices, it will be 1 position. And I think you all know which one I'm going to pick to do. So please volunteer because I will not do all 3 jobs. It does not help me and it does not help the club. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. And Kate and I will not be here next week, so we can't be any of those jobs. So I will now turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day, Carol Ann Halstead. Carol Ann.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. When I was contemplating what theme I would choose for this week, I thought about April and were there any significant happenings in April? And then I recalled that our American Civil War started April 12th, 1861, when Fort Sumter, South Carolina was attacked, and it ended April 9th, 1865, when General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. Now, I'd like to introduce the job holders today, and which is a combined role this week. Our WAG master is Dave Licata, if he can tell us what his job is.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster. I wish I was as brave as Margot, but I'm going to let myself off the hook because I didn't realize I had the WAG job until a little bit too late. But Margot's absolutely right. But today I will be the word master, the grammarian, and the counter. So I'll do all three. But here's your word for today, and it goes along with the theme. The word is goals, G-O-A-L-S, goals. It was the Union's Army's goal to reunite the country. That was the goal. And in Buffalo, the goal is always Super Bowl. There you go. And I counter, we don't want to appear less sure of ourselves. So when we speak, we want to sound sure and deliberate. So we have to take the ahs and ums out of that. And the grammarian's job, at least the way I see it, is watch out. Don't give me a tie for two. And please, at all costs, avoid the phrase, you know. No, we don't know. That's why we're letting you speak. So I will be pointing out the bad grammar and praising the exceptional grammar. Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster.
Now, next we have the quote master, who is Mike Licata today.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests this morning. Thank you for such an easy topic this morning. It was very easy to find quotes, and I will start with, the art of war is simple enough. Find out where your enemy is, get at him as soon as you can, strike him hard as you can, and keep moving. And that was from Ulysses S. Grant. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. That came from Abraham Lincoln. And my last one this morning, it is well that war is so terrible, or we would grow too fond of it. And that came from Robert E. Lee. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our next job holder is Jester, and Marshall is that, but he hadn't confirmed. Is Marshall there today?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Marshall, do you have a jest for us?
Okay, thank you. Oh, to the master. Oh, the first joke is chicken and the therapist. I asked the chicken. It crossed the road. It looked at me, son, and said, to get away from everyone's expectation. And every day is, why did you cross the road? Where are you going? Are you free range or corporate? No one asks how I feel. So yeah, I crossed the road and I'm never come back. I think the chicken needs therapy. But hey, at least it didn't end up in a nugget. Became a deep fried chicken. The alarm clock war This morning, I declared war on my alarm clock. It went off. I hate snows. It went off again. I threw it across the room. It survived. At this point, I realized this is not an alarm clock. This is a motivational enemy. It doesn't want me to wake up. It wants me to become a warrior. So I got up, looked it in the face. It said, "Tomorrow we fight again." Then I was late for work because I forgot to set it. Thank you. Okay, go back to it.
Okay. Our next job holder is Darcy Colby, who will be our timer today.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My job is to help keep the meeting running efficiently. And thank you again to Marty Johnston for giving me all the little details because I had forgotten what the times were for the different categories of speaking. For table topics, it is 2 to 3 minutes with a 15-second buffer. Sorry, 1:30 to 2:15 with a 15-second buffer. Sorry about that. Speeches are 5 to 7 with a 30-second buffer. And evaluators are 2 to 3 minutes with a 30-second buffer. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Eric, what will you be doing as our quiz master?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guest Jillian. As your quiz master today, I will be quizzing everybody. So pay attention. Get the earwax out of your ears because I'll be asking questions. So back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
And our very important job of the general evaluator will be Steve Smith.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm the general evaluator today. So that means I will be evaluating the meeting as a whole, the evaluators, and the Toastmaster, and I will report all of this when you call on me later. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. The American Civil War started, as I mentioned, on April 12th, 1861, when there was an attack on Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, by the Confederate forces. Contributing to the causes of the war was, of course, slavery. The South was an agricultural area as opposed to more industrialized North. So they were totally dependent on the slave population to keep their livelihood. And there were then there was controversy about the new states that would be coming in, and some were against the power of the national government to prohibit slavery in these territories that weren't states yet. And with all this, there were 34 states at the time, and 11 states seceded, forming the Confederacy, which were South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, and North Carolina. The bloodiest, of course, there were many, numerous battles where so many were killed, but the bloodiest battle was at Gettysburg. This occurred July 1st through 3rd in 1863, when General Robert E. Lee was pushing forward to the north, hoping to take over possibly cities of Philadelphia. And there were over 50,000 casualties. And this was actually considered the turning point of the war for the North. Now we can proceed to our table topics. And today we have Mike Florio as our table topics master.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest, Jillian. Good morning. I did a little research last night, and I consider myself a man of peace, right? So talking about war is kind of difficult, but to stop it, I thought, maybe I could come up with some questions to challenge some of our people, some of our Toastmasters, to see, just what we could do possibly. So the first person I want to ask the question of is Len. Len, if Civil War leaders had access to Zoom, how might history have changed? And we use the word goal.
Let me add myself here. Mr. Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, I can't imagine Zoom in days where travel was by horse and wagon still. Certainly it would have far surpassed the spread of newspapers, even telegraphs at the time. But I think the fundamental message would have been the same. South was fighting not only to protect her livelihood, but to retain slavery. And the North realized that all men are created equal. We weren't the first country to realize that, but it came eventually. I think the Civil War was really a failure in negotiation and diplomacy. But I guess we've always had that, and we continue to. When I think of all the bloody battles and the people killed so pointlessly over arguably a very difficult decision, the direction of the country, but war should be avoided at all costs. I'd like to believe at this day and age, and even 150 years ago, we were more civilized than having to resort to physical aggression to solve problems. But that's my 2 cents. The goal should be peace at all costs. Mr. Topic Master.
Thanks, Len. Let's go. Is Kate here? Kate's here. I see Kate.
Yes, I can answer.
Kate, along the same lines, what one modern communication tool that, if it existed, could have helped bring peace during the Civil War faster?
Oh, what a good question. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. If I drop off, it's because I'm in rural areas, just FYI. The goal, I agree with Len, should be peace. We know it's often not. Messages and communication happened so slowly that there was so much misinformation throughout the Civil War. Today's problem, I think, in contrast is there's so much information so fast that there is misinformation. When Len was speaking, it reminded me of the fact that if anyone didn't know, Juneteenth, which is a June celebration of our Black community, was originally started because communication to slaves, I believe in Texas, was so slow of the Emancipation Proclamation. I don't remember the exact date, but I think that did not reach the ears of the final slaves until 1 or 2 years later, after the Civil War was concluded, something like that, which is just ridiculous and a sign of those times when communication was massively slow and much misinterpretation. I can't see a timer, so I think I should wrap up. I could go on and on. One other thing I'll throw in is I believe when Carol mentioned Virginia, that I believe West Virginia then seceded off of Virginia to stay in the Union, and that was how West Virginia was founded. Thank you so much, Mr. Table Topics and Madam Toastmaster, for this fascinating topic with parallels to today. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Kate. Let's see. I see Steve's available this morning. Steve Smith, you're out there.
He is our general evaluator.
Oh,
I wonder if Jillian would
okay.
like to speak or someone else.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Jillian, are you available?
Absolutely. Good morning.
Good morning, Jillian. Along the lines of what Kate was talking about, let's see. I got a couple questions here. Civil War soldiers had no phones, no emails, no texts. How would you keep communication strong and morale high during those conditions?
Wow. Great question. Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. How would you keep communication high in those times? I think really morale and communication go hand in hand. You know, a bit like what Kate was saying, there's so much miscommunication out there. And I think a lot of the time when you have different leaders passing down different messages, the message can get diluted. I believe that in that time there should have been something called Toastmasters, because then you would have had the opportunity to be able to communicate effectively and ensure that there wasn't a dilution of that message. The other piece that I think has to be there is you have to have strong leadership. And what I say by strong leadership is not somebody whose goal is just to win the battle. It's somebody who wants to look after their people and ensure there is integrity amongst the troops. That is really how you keep morale going. And it does really align with the values of Toastmasters. So it's integrity, it's respect for the others around you, it's the service that you are providing for your country and your fellow man. And ultimately, it's the excellence in the goal that you are trying to pursue. So morale is all around communication and the pursuit of achieving a goal. With that, I will pass it back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Now I think we need a timers report. Len? Is it Len? Yeah. No, it's not Len. Who is our timer this morning?
Darcy.
That would be
Darcy.
me. I am happy to report that all three Table Topics speakers qualify. Len Thornton at 1 minute, 34 seconds. Kate at 1 minute, 43 seconds. And Jillian at 1 minute, 42 seconds. Congratulations.
Thank you, Darcy. And if I could get a word master report.
I had to share this with you because, you know, I just can't help myself. When my wife and I toured Gettysburg, we had an excellent guide that pointed out that it was indeed the victory of the North that sent the South on the road to defeat. But he shared with us that had the Southern boys had walkie-talkies, they would have won the battle. And speaking of winning the battle, our table topic speakers won this morning because they all used the word goal. And our guest, Jillian, we have to note, she worked it in 3 times. So they all qualified and they all used the word.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. And now we can vote for either Len, Kate, or Jillian. I'll pass it back over to our tabletop, our Toastmaster of the day. Thank you.
Another well-known occurrence in the Civil War was General William Tecumseh Sherman's campaign to burn Atlanta, which he successfully burned quite a bit of Atlanta, and then his march to the sea, where he destroyed the military targets, industry, infrastructure, and civilian property on his way to Savannah. And a new term came up with his type of warfare, and it was called a hard war, where so much was destroyed. And he did this and kept going. He had no supply line. He actually ran out of supplies, but they used foraging, and they found out where food was. They just went to the different plantations to find food. And during that march, he really didn't have mass killing of civilians, but as he headed up the coast towards South Carolina, there was unfortunately more of that. Now we can proceed to the speaking portion. And our speaker number 1 will be Les Robinson. He will be evaluated by Maggie Craig. And Maggie, can you tell us about his speech?
Thank you, Caroline. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Waking up early for AM Lockport is always a good goal, but today it's especially meaningful. We're here to hear a speech titled Second DM from a person who has poured years of dedication, leadership, and mentorship into his journey. Earning 1 distinguished Toastmaster award is impressive. Earning a second is truly exceptional. It reflects a deep, sustained commitment to personal growth and to helping others succeed. I'm fairly new to Toastmasters, and I'm honored to be the evaluator for this speech. Les Robinson has been a guiding presence in our club and beyond, and today's 5 to 7 speech fulfills the requirement of his second DTM, an inspiring capstone to a remarkable journey. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Les J. Robinson, with his speech, second DTM.
Thank you, Maggie. Before you start the timer, I do want to make one announcement as the VP of Public Relations, and Eric did find the mistake in the press release. We are having open house on May 1st. I have put it on my Facebook. I've sent stuff out to the local media. And if you could forward that Facebook post, because we're all older and we have a goal of succeeding in the club to bring in new members, please forward that out so we can have a successful open house on May 1st. Timer, if you're ready, I am ready to go. My second DTM. When I was getting ready, I had to go through level 4 and level 5, presentation masteries, to open my window for my second DTM. It's a lot different than when you originally did it. You went through the books, you followed the pathway from the back of the book, and voila, many, many years later, you got your DTM. Now, this kind of follows the same pattern. You're going to do your officer training, you're going to be your area governor. All of that you'll have to do again. Now, you also have to do a high performance project. So my high performance project, when I did my last high performance project, I tied it into work. And this is tied into the presentations that I already do. But I looked at an area where let's go out and have some education. Let's go speak and let's have a fun time. So our main goal is what it's called is the missing link. And the missing link is between retirement and plan of care. And what this is where your children do not want to look at care. They do not want to think of care. The only thing they think of is when you start to talk about you going to a nursing home or needing care is personal hygiene. Now, that idea, your kids will be supportive, but they will not want to have hands-on, and you will go right down with your finances and maybe be financially wiped out because nobody wants to deal with it. So what we do is very simple, is I start this back in the seminars and I have my process and we go to the fall prevention. And this is where you start to change the paradigm of the missing link. And the missing link is changing habits, attitudes, and emotional behavior. Because if you go to people and say, hey, you need to do this, nobody's going to do it. They're going to push back. But if the family goes to their kids and say, hey, we took a fall prevention class, a balance class, so we can stay home longer. We're not going to be a burden. We're not going to be financially burdened, and we're going to have an enjoyable retirement. You now, back in the back of the head, the children sit there and say, this can't be that bad. But it's a very small pivot, very minimum pivots. But what we do is we work with our clients, and very simple is we have these proactive attitude, habits, emotional changes. And if you sit there and you come in and bombard your family and your caregivers, the goal will not move anywhere. It'll actually probably go backwards. And what we do is we have a very simple 12-step approach. That's stuff that's already baked into stuff that you are already doing in your insurances, in your legal, in your finance. It's already there. It's laying on the table and nobody's using it. So what we're doing is we're taking stuff that's already there, giving it to the clients and say, you need to explain this to your children. They're very simple tasks. They're not mind blowing. We are not building the Starship Enterprise. We are just saying, we're doing this to avoid problems. Do you mind doing this? No. And these are simple little tasks. These simple little tasks build over the years. And what the end result is the family sits at the holiday, and I will start to get calls probably next Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And as the family gets together for Easter, they will evaluate and they will be more of a proactive point and say, well, we saw you having a hard time getting up, Dad. Maybe you need to go get checked out. Versus, let's have a surprise meeting at my house. We're going to go over to our parents, our last parent, and we're going to take them to an assisted living and we're going to drop them off. Disaster. Because everybody feels guilty. They feel like I had to do this. But if you sit there and you go farther back into the care event, and 70% of the people that after these calls and when they go get checked out, they might have to do some minor PT, some adaptive, durable medical equipment. Little shifts in their lifestyle will keep them home and keep them independent. And the family will not see it as a personal hygiene event. They'll see it as that we've all worked together to keep mom and dad home. It's an enjoyable environment, and we're going to have another great holiday. That is the missing link, because if you don't look at small little increments to create a goal, you're going to indirectly wipe out your finances. And I've been doing this for many, many years, and I've spoken at the Financial Planners Association on the National Convention as plan of care. if these little pieces aren't put together, it will be financially disaster. So basically, it goes back to habit, attitude, habit, and emotional. And the call to action is very simple, is turn it into a positive, very simple, small little wins or small little goals. And at the end of the day, you'll have a more enjoyable caravan, you'll keep more money, and you will be in control. So at the end of the day, my project is to promote the missing link, which we've sent letters out to speak at local organizations. We're trying to get published on it. And our end goal is to change the paradigm. Thank you.
Carol, unmute yourself.
Okay, our second speaker is Marty Johnston, and today he will be evaluated by Nancy Ferry. Nancy, would you like to tell us about Marty's speech?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Marty Johnston, he's a two-time DTM. His project today is going to focus on recognizing his preferred communication style and understanding how his style impacts his interactions with others. The purpose of the project is to learn about different communication styles and identify his primary style. He has completed a questionnaire, I think, to help identify his own style and delivering a 5 to 7 minute speech. And the title of his speech is, "What is my communication style?" And again, 5 to 7 minutes. Marty Johnston.
Thank you, Nancy, fellow Toastmasters, and Jillian, most welcome guest. As Nancy mentioned, for the project I'm working on in Pathways, it was to determine my communication style. And after completing the questionnaire, I found out that the communication style that fit me best, according to the questionnaire, was direct communication style. Now, the direct communication style is built on three main variables for me, and they are, number one, focus, competitive spirit, and having results or being results orientated. And I'd like to explain this morning how those variables impact my relationship with others, fellow Toastmasters, people in my profession. And I'll give a couple examples in each of those areas. I'd like to start with the first variable is focus. You know, a lot of times in our daily routines we are focused, but in my communication style, I need to be focused. Specifically at work, where I'm a shift supervisor for Tops Markets, I need to not only focus on my tasks that my supervisor gives to me, but also on the customer's needs and making sure that the customers are satisfied and they come in and they get what they need. So I can't just be on a one-track mind. I need to be open to step aside, listen to others, and focus on others also, not just my task. And I can give you a brief example. Most recently, many of you are familiar with the New York Lottery. Well, at our store, it seems like every evening there's a problem. In Toastmasters, it's called an opportunity. So I have an opportunity at Tops to help customers with their lottery tickets. And the majority of the problem is the ticket might get cut off, if you will. It might get cut off and the customer comes up and says, "I need help. Your machine cut my lottery ticket. Oh, I can't use it." So I take a moment to focus on the customer. I find out what their needs are. and I try to help them. The majority of the time, it's just a matter of adjusting the machine. There are times where I've been told to give them their money. There have been other times when I can't really determine what happened. I may have to shut the machine down. But a lot of times I'll either give them their money if the machine shows that there's a $2 credit or a $20 credit. I will give them their money back if it's, you know, a smaller amount. But sometimes, for example, if it's a large amount, there was a customer that had $165 last week, and I had to take her phone number and have the office manager call her in the morning because I didn't want to open up the machine and give her, you know, $165 in the middle of the night, because who knows what could happen. So to prevent, you know, other opportunities, if you will, I satisfied them by explaining, you know, look, my boss told me that, you know, he'll get back to you in the morning. We'll make sure you get compensated. So being open and focused and listening to the customers and trying to help them, that's part of my direct communication style. Another example, number 2, I would like to tell you about is the competitive spirit. And I would like to use the analogy of Toastmasters and karate. Toastmasters and karate, what do you mean, Toastmasters and karate? Well, with karate, when you think, what is the goal in karate? It's the black belt, right? Yes, black belt. And in Toastmasters, it's the Distinguished Toastmaster Award, like Les Robinson previously described. In Toastmasters, I had the opportunity to achieve my Toastmaster Award in the legacy program, if you will, which is the old system, the older system where we used the manuals and proceeded through the manuals to complete all the different competencies. Well, in the new program, it was challenging because there were no manuals. It wasn't the same routine. It was something different. So I forced myself numerous evenings to go to Denny's in the middle of the night after work and study up on this pathways with my laptop. And it paid off. It paid rewards. It definitely paid off by not only competing against myself to try to reach that DTM and pathways, but competing against other club members to do the same. So forcing myself to be competitive, not only against myself, but against other members and other people in the district while I held other district roles and club roles, to be the best that I could and to do all the best that I could for myself with the competitive spirit. And the third and last variable in the direct communication style is results oriented. In this, I would like to share an example of landscaping opportunity, again, if you will. My sister-in-law, Karen, who lives in Sanborn, had some beautiful landscape in her yard. And I don't know if any of you ever heard of a boxwood shrub, but it's an evergreen shrub and it's beautiful. Unfortunately, a few years ago, it was devastated by an invasive species, if you will, called the boxwood tree moth. And what happened was the boxwood tree moth eats the foliage, the greens, and then it makes a tent, if you will, underneath it when it dies, in the caterpillar stage. And then the remains of the caterpillar, periodically, they may have laid eggs. So those eggs can turn into a caterpillar, and it can regenerate over time. So I forced myself to try to prove to my sister-in-law that I could save the boxwoods. And it's been 2 years, and so far I've been successful. And I'm driven actually, because the neighbor across the street, Miss Pet, had hers dug up and thrown out. Well, fellow Toastmasters, my direct communication style has taught me a great deal about focus, competitive spirit, and being results oriented. And I wish you the same in your endeavors, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marty. Our third speaker today is Phil Russell. He will be evaluated by Tracy Farrell. Tracy, can you tell us about his speech?
I can. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Today we're going to be treated by a third DTM. So all of our speakers are DTMs. Phil is working out of the Innovative Planning Manual. He's at level 1, writing a speech with purpose. Darcy, his speech is going to be 5 to 7 minutes. And the goal of his speech is to meet an express purpose that he'll tell us about and follow through in a well-executed speech. The title of his speech, do you have that, Madam Toastmaster?
Yes, I do. It's the insidious effects of hurrying saga continues. Phil.
There, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. The last few weeks have been quite interesting. Quite an experience, I might say. Been working on slowing down and observing others and how they do things. Hurrying can be painful. Let's start off with, I had a little experience yesterday. I went to DiCamillo's for some hot cross buns. I'm driving from Wilson to Lewiston to pick them up. And as I'm driving, I'm not a fast driver. I'm not. My father taught me because we were in a service station, so he taught me to slow down. Make sure you stay within the speed limit, maybe about 5 miles underneath, and you're a safer driver. So a lot of people get annoyed with that. But I stay way over to the right so people can pass me, not a problem. And on the way, going down Lake Road, of course, there's a tailgater on 18, right behind me. Anybody been rear-ended by a tailgater? I have. Not an enjoyable experience. On Transit Road, very, very busy day, a girl, she was in a hurry. I think she was doing makeup or she might have been eating something. And I had to slam on my brakes because the people up ahead of me, and lo and behold, bang, I got rear-ended. Lots of damage. She was very upset. Oh, I'm going to be late. Oh, crying and everything else. Well, she missed her goal of getting there. Police had to come and things like that. And this is what happened on Route 18. I was going down there doing my own thing, and eventually there's at least 3 trucks at different times tailgating me. You know what happened? I'll tell you. Within less than a mile, they turned off. They went where they were supposed to go. But they were right on my tail for at least a quarter of a mile, and then, they wanted me to speed up. But they really only were going about a half a mile. Quite dangerous, I would say. That is a little bit irritating. How about work? My first manager with MetLife, great man. He did not want you to rush. He wanted you to do it correctly. You know where he ended up? 47th floor. That's the top floor of 1 Madison Avenue of Metropolitan Life. He's somewhere in the Adirondacks now, retired and having a great time with his family. He slowed down. He showed us how to slow down. There's organizations like Toastmasters, Lions, and all of Optimists, you name them. And there's always that person that has a great deal of ambition. Yes, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to get there faster than anybody. And it happened to me a couple of times. Now, sometimes I'm not a patient person, and sometimes I get a little foul mouthed, you might say, and I'll tell people off. And I was getting phone calls, I was getting emails, texts. When are you going to be? You're going to be there? Going to be there? Yes, I'll tell you. I've had some experiences. I've had a death in the family. I have other things that I'm trying to accomplish, and I will tell you in time whether I will be there or not. One more time, one more phone call. Oh, yes, I embarrassed myself by using some foul language and telling the person off. I apologized, but it was both my experience of being in a rush because of being pressured, and it was as much his fault for pressuring me all those times because I gave him an answer. Do I have to answer it 25 times? I didn't think so, but that's what happens. So this has been a very interesting experience. In the morning, I get up and I do some exercises, and when I was in a rush and hurrying, I wouldn't do them as effectively. Now I've slowed down myself. I feel better, my mind is clearer, and I do it correctly. It's just a little change in my attitude. I feel better, I'm more relaxed, I enjoy things. On the way home from DeCamillo's, I took Lower Mountain Road. It's a very, very seldomly driven road. Ever taken it? Sunny day and seen the view that you get from Lower Mountain Road? Wow. You just have to take a little glance. You try not to distract yourself so you get off the road, but you just look at that. You see the houses there, how they're manicured, and the view you have, you can see all the way to Lake Ontario. It's a great ride. Take it if you get a chance. A couple of things. Try to slow down. Importantly, try to get it right. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Now, could we please have a timer report from Darcy to see how our speakers did with time?
Sure. Madam Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I'm happy to report that all three speakers are within the allotted amount of time. Les Robinson with 5 minutes and 51 seconds, Marty Johnston, 7:25, and Phil Russell, 6:17. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Now so they're all are eligible for a vote. If we can do that. Just another Civil War fact is that about 620,000 were killed or died in the war. And that is the thing with the Civil War. We're talking about two parts of the same country, really, where brother can be against brother. So that's why there's so many Americans were killed in the Civil War as compared to other wars. And another fact I found was that 1 out of 13 of those wounded ended up with some type of amputation. And of course, back in those days, there was no military hospital like Walter Reed who could give you a prosthesis or rehabilitation. So they these things drastically change their lives. Now we can go into our evaluation portion. And evaluating speaker 1, Les Robinson, will be Maggie Craig. Maggie.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Les, for sharing your second DTM speech with us. As personally, I would say that just to think about earning 1 DTM, which is my goal, is quite an achievement, but pursuing a second one shows a spectacular dedication to personal growth. Your speech, I found very personal to me at this exact time, as I've spent the last couple of weeks working with my team and my husband trying to put my plan together. And what I've found so far is it's going to be a lot of work and it's not finished. The beginning is such a tiny little scratch, but I'm on my way. Having said that, I just want to show you this book. This book actually talks about meeting with your family and going over your wishes and finding out what their needs are and talking about making your will with them. And it's done in a very easy to read way. And it was given to me by my financial advisor. So I highly recommend having a peek at this book. What I liked about yours is it wasn't just about the financial end, but it was also, although of course you talked about that, it was also about keeping us safe and dealing with my 94-year-old mother right now. I could also relate to that. So I found your speech incredibly relatable. I love your small steps approach because it is all about that, isn't it? It's about the small bite-sized pieces that you can work through instead of trying to, as my mother would say, eat the whole towel at once. I would say that if I was going to offer you any advice, when you're presenting on Zoom, your camera is obviously a little bit lower than we are. Or it looks like you're looking down to your camera or to your material. And so the eye contact on Zoom, which you probably aren't able to ascertain, is a little low. Again, I really admire your determination to get this second DTM, and thank you for the aspiration, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Now, evaluating Marty Johnston will be Nancy Ferry.
Okay, sorry. Technical difficulties. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And thank you, Marty. Great speech this morning. Marty shared about his communication style. He did a great job of laying it out. Concrete examples. He followed through with personal concrete examples that he shared about who he is. They were unpacked it with focus, competitive spirit, and results. I thought it was very interesting to hear some of the examples that you shared with us, Marty. Your content was excellent. One area, two little things I would have changed. Marty, you usually have this pop to start with, and sometimes another pow to end with. And I was surprised that you didn't use those. They always add to your speech. Maybe it wasn't the kind of speech to do that with, but I did miss it. There was one point with a hand gesture And this is always the problem with cameras where your hand came up in the middle of the camera and it kind of sat there for a little bit and it was covering your face. You you summarized very well exactly who you are and what your personality style, and not personality, well, communication and personality are similar. You gave good examples. Let's see. It was clear, personal connection. And let's see. And it was your communication style is direct communication. And I think you've pegged it. I think that you did a good job figuring out what your communication style is. And sometimes that's difficult to do. I'm looking forward to more of your speeches and appreciate you as a fellow Toastmaster. With that, I'll pass.
Now, evaluating speaker number 3, Phil Russell, will be Tracy Farrell. Tracy.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Phil. Phil had two goals today. He stated his purpose of his speech, which was to slow down. And then during his speech, he had to execute a well-organized and planned speech. And I have to tell you, Phil started off very differently today. I'm used to Phil starting his speech in a very big, boisterous way. But instead, he started very slowly and steady. And then he told us a story about driving to Lewiston and his slow, steady ride, and everybody else that was in a hurry to get there. So, telling a story is obviously a good way to communicate a message. He used good gestures throughout his entire speech, both hand and his facial gestures. He also went on to the second part of his speech was how to improve. Okay, so he told us about retirement and how he learned about those improvements and what he had learned. He used to be, and maybe he still is, I don't know, but using some very boisterous language in Phil Russell style, but how to calm down and maybe not use that type of language and how to relax during retirement. Then he went on to and ended his speech with a really, really good story once again. Once again, driving to Lewiston and how he enjoyed the ride and noticed the scenery and all the houses and everything. Slowing down, really learning to enjoy the ride, which I really loved because when you start off with a story and at the end, you can circle back to that same story. That's a well executed speech. And finally, he ended with a great line. Very slowly and with purpose, he said, slow down. Then he had a long pause and said, get it right. So, fellow Toastmasters, I believe he met every single one of his goals. He stated it, slow down, and number 2, deliver a well-executed speech. He absolutely did that by giving us stories and then circling around to that first story. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Now, Madam Timer, how did our evaluators do with time?
Madam Toastmaster, I am happy to announce that all 3 of the evaluators are within the allotted amount of time, so they all qualify. Maggie Craig, 2 minutes, 38 seconds. Nancy Ferry, 2 minutes, 28 seconds. And Tracy Farrell, 2 minutes, 45 seconds. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. So there, we'll have a vote since they all qualified. And I would like to make a couple more comments on the Civil War. Particularly, I know a lot of people got ideas about the Civil War. If you've had the privilege of seeing the movie Gone with the Wind, the only thing that we have to remember about that is that it was a love story based in the historical era of the Civil War, and it was not a documentary. So some things weren't totally accurate. In fact, when Margaret Mitchell, who of course wrote the book Gone with the Wind, when she and her husband saw the movie on the screen, his comment was that in the scene where Scarlett is walking in the Atlanta streets, seeing all the wounded laying there, Margaret Mitchell's husband commented that if we had had that many soldiers in the South that were depicted there, he said, we would have won the war. Okay, now let's, maybe I'll start with some reports. How about Dave Licata, who had triple duty today? How did we do with our word, our Oz, and our grammar? Dave Licata.
Dave, you're muted and sideways.
I can't help it. And my phone has cut me off twice during this meeting, and I'm about done with Zoom. All righty. So we get to Carol Ann. Carol Ann had more than 5 O's, and she has to be careful about the connector and. That was kind of overworked. Maggie, she had 3 I's, but I'd like to give her praise because she used the phrase small bite-sized pieces. Les, you did use the word of the day. Maggie used the word of the day as well. Let me check Carol Ann. Yes, she used the word of the day as well. And I want to give Maggie credit for using small bite-sized pieces. That's a nice phrase. I like that one. Missing link drew us in. It was a good phrase to use in that particular speech. Tracy used the word of the day. She did not have any ahs or ums, but we do have to question her about the word tell ya instead of tell you. We're a little bit puzzled how that happened. Now it disappeared. Not even in the shot. Oh dear. And Phil did use the word of the day, and I've been kicked off this twice, and I'm upside down and backwards. Other than that, I'm having a great time. Thank you so much, Mr. General Evaluator, or Toastmaster of the Day, Carol.
Okay. Speaking of General Evaluator, I think we'll call on Steve Smith at this time to hear what he thought of our meeting.
Thank you. Well, I have been making notes because my goal was to make an effective evaluation of the whole meeting. but this is what you're going to get. So the meeting, in spite of the fact, I think we're all a little rusty on Zoom. I know I am. And as most people know, I am more than a little bit technologically challenged. So I'll put up with a lot from other people because I don't know any better myself. The three evaluators, I found it interesting that at least two of the evaluators mentioned different things we could do better on Zoom. As I led into this, I think we're a little rusty on Zoom. I'm not a fan of it either, Dave. So, but they had a daunting task because all three speakers today were DTMs. Never an easy task, but they were up to it. They actually did give evaluations with some constructive comments in there to help the speakers. They use basic sandwich approach, which is acceptable, not always good. Some people do not like the sandwich approach, and I find that's an interesting opinion because there are other ways of doing an evaluation. And change is nice. The meeting, she had some interesting filler in there, spaced out throughout the meeting. She had the meeting well organized. Everybody had the jobs, and she had that covered. She went right through everything. No glitches anywhere that I was aware of. But there was, she took care of before we came on, and that's to her credit. So the meeting went well. The topic was interesting. There's a lot of opinions about the Civil War, and we're all entitled to them. She had some facts in there to try to straighten some of that out, and that's good. I don't have much to comment on. The meeting went well. We're doing quite well time-wise. So I give it all pretty high marks for the day. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
I think we will call on Eric to question us on how well we listened today. Eric.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. All right, everybody. Everybody is pumped, ready, or not sideways like Dave? I think Dave, first off, Dave, I saw your disappearing act. Beautiful.
I know somebody else is going to disappear.
I can think of one or two things on that, but I digress. What organization did Jillian mention to keep morale and communication high during her table topic speech?
Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
Beautiful. Les mentioned our open house. When is our open house?
May 1st.
Beautiful. And Marty's speech. What was the goal of getting a black belt? What was the, okay. I may have this wrong, but someone help me on this. I've been hearing about karate and black belt. What did Marty mention about karate and black belt? With tied in with Toastmasters.
But you have goals.
Yeah,
What the main goal is: black belt in karate and distinguished Toastmaster and Toastmasters.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marty, for clearing that up. I had that mixed up. I don't know why. What was Phil's speech about today? That I should remind myself.
Slowing down.
Beautiful. And where did Phil go to get hot crust buns?
DeCamillo's Lewiston.
There you go. Actually, I remember playing hot crust buns on the recorder as a little child, but that's for another time. And what holiday in June did Kate mention in table topics?
Juneteenth.
Very good. All right, everybody gets $100 each. I'll make sure I'll have it in my for my paycheck.
Just spend more to me. Just spend more to me.
Kidding.
No.
All right, I'll make sure everybody gets checks, and I'll make sure they balance. Anyway, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Just one more comment. When we say the pledge, part of it says one nation under God, indivisible. And let's hope, even with all the decisiveness there seems to be in our country now, that we can remain indivisible. Now, I think there was a comment put up about winners, but I'm not sure who they are. Can someone tell us who our winners are today?
I'd be glad to. For table topics, Jillian, congratulations. Our best evaluator today was Tracy Farrell. And our best speaker today was Phil Russell. Congratulations, all.
No. Are there any more announcements to be made today?
I do, then I'll give it to Dave. I'll turn into the president's role. There is a couple announcements. All right, May 1st is our open house. Make sure we're doing new member inductions on the 1st during our open house. And we're also going to be doing the voting of our club officers for the new year on May 8th. And also May 15th is the Lockport High School DECA class will be in attendance at our meeting. Jillian, you are more than welcome to attend. It's the DECA students presented by Kristen Badgerbach, who's our fellow DTM, and Jill DeTilio, who is the teacher and the DECA coordinator. So you and Avis are in. Anybody wants to come, please do. And Kay, I know you are still on. Do we have any takers for as far as officer roles?
I will send that in an email. I'm working out some final confirmations. I'm so excited. I think we have an excellent team planned for our slate of officers. I know we need to put it out with enough notice before May 8th. And then also on May 8th, if anybody would like to plan ahead, we will go to for post toasties afterwards for breakfast to knead the dough on that May 8th after the officer installation. For anyone who's interested, knead the dough in Ransomville, May 8th. I also believe that the Shaw Festival tickets are sold out now for May 3rd. But I'll be back at the meeting on May 1st so we can work out final carpooling and lunch plans, etc. I'm so excited. We're going to Anything Goes for anyone who hasn't heard that. And Jillian, maybe you could join us and just buy yourself a ticket outside of our group block, because I don't know where you live, but I feel like you live nearby there. So maybe we want to hear from Jillian too. How did you like our meeting today? I'll just introduce you as our immediate past president.
Thank you very much, Kate. Safe travels. I loved this meeting. I was always told that AM Lockport had a good energy about it and was fun, and it lived up to the expectation. I'm sorry for just jumping in, but 7 o'clock for a non-morning person is not the best. So I had it in my schedule and I forgot to let Eric know. So my apologies, Eric, for just showing up unannounced.
You're totally fine.
You handled it with grace, and I really do appreciate, everybody, welcoming me so nicely. I would also say congratulations to the DTMers here. So Marty, congratulations on your DTM and Pathways, and Les, very proud of you, because I remember speaking to you at the beginning of the year about your DTM, and it's great to see it coming to fruition. So thank you again. I have put a link into the chat for anybody that is interested in the district conference. It is 8 days away, and today is the last day to register for it. So thank you again, and back to you, Mr. Presiding Officer or Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. And I have one more announcement to make. I spoke with Brooke Evans from the Lockport Y. They will be using our meeting space for the summer camp starting on Monday, June 30th to Monday, September 1st. So our last day of in-person meetings will be on Thursday, June 26th. So please mark that down in your calendars. And then we'll start up with Zoom summer meetings starting July 3rd. So please let me know if you have any questions or anything, or reach out to other fellow officers. And with that, I'll turn things over back to Beth, who is our presiding officer, to close out our meeting this morning.
Is there anyone else with an announcement?
I think Dave had an announcement.
It's just
Dave?
that. I wasn't muted. Anyways, double down on that open house because things have worked out very well for us. Because you can do a little build up. Because today was Zoom, we couldn't open house in the Zoom meeting. But this May 1st thing, you can bang the drum and maybe get some guests there. And I'm chasing the guy pretty hard, but if I was wise, I'd find 2 more people to chase because you got to get 1 out of 3. So be mindful of the fact that that's a bit off in the future, and you tell them it's an open house and say we got goodies and coffee and juice, and it should be an excellent opportunity. That's all. Little pep talk.
Okay. Thanks,
Thanks
you,
for
Dave.
Pep.
And obviously, if we're on Zoom, we don't do 50-50, so we will not be doing that drawing. If no one else has any announcements, I will officially close the meeting. Len, did you have an announcement?
Just a quick one. Next week's Toastmaster is Joe Budnick. Speakers are Eric, Mark Campus, and Maggie.
Okay.
We'll be back at the Y.
Very good.
How'd you get that moving picture behind you, Len? I'm so jealous.
That's pretty cool.
You're not telling us, are you?
That is pretty cool. You should share. This is all about sharing, man.
Yes.
Good morning and farewell.
All right.
He still has his secrets, his little secrets. Tech guru.